The Hinterkaifeck murders, one of the most chilling and baffling unsolved crimes in history, unfolded on the night of March 31st, 1922, in a small, isolated farmhouse in Bavaria, Germany. The Gruber family, Andreas, a harsh and authoritarian patriarch, his wife, Cecilia, their widowed daughter, Victoria, Victoria's children, 7-year-old Cecilia Jr. and 2-year-old Joseph, and their new maid, Maria Baumgartner, were brutally slain in a sequence of events that has left investigators and historians grasping for answers to this day. The events leading up to the murders were as unsettling as the crime itself. In the days prior, Andreas Gruber had reported hearing strange noises emanating from the attic, but despite his efforts, he found no one there. A set of footprints had been discovered in the snow, leading from the forest to the house, but there were no tracks leading back. Additionally, a strange newspaper was found on the property, one that no one in the family had purchased, and a set of keys had inexplicably gone missing. Despite these eerie occurrences, the family seemed reluctant to leave or to seek help from authorities, instead continuing with their daily lives under a shroud of unease. On that fateful night, the first victim was likely Andreas Gruber. It is believed that he heard something unusual in the barn and ventured out to investigate. Whether he was drawn out by a noise or by a feeling that someone was lurking, we will never know. What awaited him was not an animal, as he might have thought, but a killer wielding a mattock, a farm tool with a sharp, heavy blade. Andreas was struck multiple times, his skull fractured with brutal force. The assailant then waited silently for the next victim to arrive. His wife, Cecilia, concerned for her husband's absence, eventually followed him out to the barn. She, too, was ambushed and met the same gruesome fate. Next was Victoria, who may have been drawn to the barn by the noise or by her growing concern for her parents. She entered the darkened space with her young daughter, Cecilia Jr., close behind. The killer struck Victoria with the same horrifying precision, her body crumpling to the barn floor. Little Cecilia Jr., however, may have witnessed the attack. Evidence suggests she survived the initial blow. Her body was later found clutching clumps of her own hair, a grim indication of the terror and agony she experienced before succumbing to her injuries hours later. With the main family incapacitated, the killer turned his attention to the house. Maria Baumgartner, the family's new maid, had only arrived earlier that day. She was likely preparing to settle in for the night when the killer entered the home. Her death was swift and brutal, her body discovered in her bedroom. Finally, the assailant entered the room of 2-year-old Joseph. The toddler was asleep in his crib and posed no threat, yet the killer showed no mercy. Joseph's skull was crushed, ending his young life in a senseless act of violence. What happened next only deepened the horror of the crime. The killer did not flee the scene immediately. Instead, he remained in the farmhouse for several days. During this time, smoke was seen rising from the chimney. Livestock were fed and cared for, and food was consumed from the family's kitchen. The murderer appeared disturbingly comfortable, even meticulous in maintaining the illusion of normalcy. Neighbors later reported seeing signs of life at the farm, unaware of the atrocities that had taken place. Days later, concerned neighbors visited the farm after the family failed to show up for church services and other community obligations. Upon entering the barn, they were met with a grisly sight. The bodies of Andreas, Cazelia, Victoria, and Cecilia Jr. lay stacked in the hay, their injuries grotesquely evident. Inside the house, Maria and Joseph were found dead, their lifeless forms bearing the same violent marks. The gruesome discovery shocked the small community and drew investigators from across the region. Despite a thorough investigation, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved. Numerous suspects were considered, including Victoria's rumored lover, members of the extended family, and local laborers. Yet no definitive evidence ever emerged to point to the killer. The case is further complicated by the family's dark history, which included allegations of abuse and incest, casting shadows of suspicion over various figures in their lives. Over the decades, the case has become a source of endless speculation, with theories ranging from a revenge-fueled attack to a crime of opportunity committed by a drifter. The farmhouse was eventually demolished in 1923, but the memory of the murders lingers. The Hinterkaifeck case is often cited as one of the most disturbing examples of human savagery, a stark reminder of how the most horrifying monsters can hide in the shadows of the ordinary.